morning everyone. Welcome to Bookswagon. So today with me I have Sonali Prasad ma'am, who is an Indian journalist, artist and writer whose debut novel Glass Bottom has been acclaimed as a literary breakthrough and was one of the most talked about debuts of 2024. Her journalism has already appeared in The Guardian, The Washington Post and many more. So let's talk about her book. So ma'am, welcome to Bookswagon. We are really delighted to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I really want to ask, as a journalist who has written so much, so how did that background influence your transition into fiction writing?
So I have nearly a decade's worth of journalism, specifically in the environmental and social beats. And so the natural progression for someone like me would be a non-fiction. But as life turns out, I tried a few fiction pages with my peers when I was at MIT. We had a writing group after hours, and they really encouraged me to try this. They saw something in the passages that I wrote, and then COVID happened. I had something already, like we had a couple of pages back in Boston, but when I came to India, there was this impulse to do fiction. It was the pandemic, it was the colossal grief around us. I couldn't process it in the non-fiction format, and so it took the form of fiction. And I think it helps me because when I'm writing about overwhelming subjects like climate rupture, um, non-fiction gives me the ethical solace that I'm doing it responsibly because I have the testimony that I've collected as a journalist. So I'm not taking liberties without any basis. I am working off something that I know to be true and then infusing it with my own sentiments from the front lines.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, I want to know that Glass Bottom has been described as both a lyrical fiction and a climate-inflected literature. So, what initially drew you to write a novel or that also fiction, which intertwined both of these topics?
I think for me, uh, genre or what I was writing about was very fluid. I never thought I'm going to write a climate fiction or this is a particular kind of eco fiction. I always joke about the fact that we went through 13 different variations for this book's title, for Glass Bottom. My editor Isha will tell you. And the first week when we searched for the book on Amazon and you type Glass Bottom, all you get is cutlery. You get utensils, you get like glass, bowl for your dining room. So I'm just glad it is in some category, whether it's poetry, fiction, drama, prose, because the reader picks different moods of the chapters depending on where they are in life. So if you see Glass Bottom, it starts with a hallucination which is written in prose, but later on in the book, the hallucinations become, a piece of a screenplay or even a poetry, attempt. That is the interlude of the book. It takes the form of the mood of the characters, and I hope it also responds to the mood of the reader in some way.
Amit indeed will, and more because just now I saw a post on social media where I really want to know about it. Please tell us that you were telling that you took real life incidents as a reference, and you were talking about an incident involving an elephant there.
Yeah.
So can you please tell the readers about that?
Yeah, so there is this elephant in Assam that was found murdered, and on the skin it was written Paddy Thief Bin Laden. I actually found it in a report, those animal welfare reports that come out, and this was a report on human animal conflict, and it was the cover page of that report. So something just triggered me. Why would you label an animal that? Why would you scratch it out on its skin after its death? And it was a juvenile elephant, if I'm not wrong. So I had to include that into the book because the name itself is a commentary on our violence towards a species that's trying to coexist. I understand that the farmers were very plagued because the elephants are moving into their fields and destroying their only source of income, their livelihood. But it has to be some level of extreme violence for you to mark out a death. It's already a dead body. For you to go then scratch and write it on its skin, you're trying to make a point, right? It's the same thing where we say why some killers mark their mark their victims. It's the same psychology in my head. And it's very disturbing. It kind of tells us where we are today in terms of living harmoniously with other species.
Indeed, ma'am, I completely agree. Ma'am, the narrative also follows two mother-daughter pairs, if I'm not wrong, whose lives intersect with storms and sea turbulence. So, how did you approach creating these type of relationships? Including so much sensitivity and pain and so much emotions.
Yeah.
Because also, as a journalist, we have to be so much factual and so much ethical and so much. But you portrayed a lot of emotions in there. I really want to know about it.
So, firstly, I believe that the idea of objectivity in journalism is a big farce. I think we are working off ethical codes that are imposed on us from other bodies, and it may have worked in a different time for a different audience in a different reporting unit. But what do you mean by objectivity? When you go to the ground, you take an angle when you write. If I'm doing a story on you, I can write about your childhood, I can write about your youth, I can write about your college experience. It's up to me, right? What angle I take. So there's nothing like objectivity. It's a human being doing the work. But you have to be responsible with the story of another person. You have to justify the angle that you take. So if you're a journalist, you have to take a stance through the story that you tell. And in fiction, that becomes easy because we choose to tell a story, we infuse our characters with the moods that we want to. And so it is not a very difficult leap for me from what people perceive as journalism, objectivity, to fiction, freedom. I think we in both categories we take a stance and then we justify it. Yeah.
Ma'am, I request you to tell our readers like how has your shift been and how has been your experience as a writer now. And also I would really like if you could give some message to the readers who are going to read this book, who have already read this. It will really create an impact on them.
Um, it has been a great experience. I have never left journalism. I'm going to go back to Punjab to do field reporting again on Monday. And that gives me a lot of hope for this year. We are living in battle times, so we need to have ways to touch ground, touch base with reality again. And field reporting does that for me. It humbles me. It teaches me my place. Um, and I hope to do some good with that. So the next book or the next project that I'm working on or will work on will take a lot of time to come into shape because I want to do the groundwork first. I want to talk to people and see what they're facing, to learn from them first before I can build the world that's in my head. That's a composite of everything I've learned. And what would I tell to readers? I think we are in a time where reading is dropping according to general polls, but I know reading exists in its own niche groups. I'm part of a writers' reading group that, all writers get together to talk books, and we're also starting an essay reading club. So I know reading exists in niche, but the general consensus is that people are not reading enough. And we have technology also contesting that reading space now with AI. So I would want people to read more, read language as a tool of evolution, as a tool of progress, as a tool of resistance, revolution, and deception, right? So when you read the newspaper or when you hear a speech, it's all language being used for different purposes. So as writers, what are we using language for? We can use it for aesthetics, we can use it for art, we can use it to send a message. But the best thing about language, which that speaks to me every day, is that something like poetry cannot be decoded, cannot be reproduced in pieces because there's intellect and there's instinct. And we may have found a way to replicate intellect physically, we haven't found a way to replicate instinct, right? Replicate sentiments like courage, like empathy, like care. So we need to work with language on that level. We already know how to do it intellectually, but how do you mix that and how do you keep that in this world of technology, in this world of global rupture? And I think glass bottom also survives in this space today very beautifully because it talks about rupture that's beyond time, that doesn't work with a particular time scale. And mother-daughter pairs are perfect for that because they're the same female form, but they exist at different time scales. So it speaks to the geological time scale, but it also speaks to a lack of understanding. You and your mother don't have a perfect understanding. Me and my mother don't have a perfect understanding, but we try to reach across that opacity that time creates. And I think we need to understand the planet with the same amount of care and responsibility.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this session. And I also learned a lot, and I'm sure the readers are going to love your book too. Thank you again for
Thank you so
joining
much.
us.
Thank you so much.
And thank you everyone for being with us here today. Thank you. ये बहुत
Hello
बड़ी
readers, my
बहुत ही
book
ज़्यादा बड़ी
Glass
जर्नलिस्ट
Column
है,
is
मेरी फोटो
available
ले
at
लेना है.
Volkswagen. I hope you give it a read and let us know what you think about it. Thank you so much.